Hi everyone, it's Henrietta and Heather, and welcome to a Millennial podcast where we dive deep into the life of our 30s.
We'll discuss our struggles, dreams, relationships, icks, and anything millennials can relate to. Sit back, relax, and let's head on this journey together. We are 30s Unfiltered. Hey everyone, welcome back to 30s Unfiltered. My name is Heather, and I'm joined by my beautiful co-host, Henrietta.
Yes, we've got an extra special guest with us today, our very good friend, Nicole Torres, who is not only an actress, but also an attorney, and juggling these very two different careers while living her best life in LA. We're talking law, Hollywood, and of course, what it's like to date in a city that's, let's just say, complicated.
Yes, we're definitely here for it. So grab whatever you're sipping on and let's give Nicole a warm welcome into the podcast.
Yay!
Well,
Yeah.
thanks. I'm so happy to be here. I'm so
Yay,
excited.
we're so happy to have you to pop your
Yes.
podcast cherry.
Oh, good. It's so nice to see you. I haven't seen you in so long.
I know. It's crazy how fast time goes. When was the last time I saw you?
It was your
No,
going away party. Your
Wow.
going away dinner
The dinner?
in Venice.
Oh my
I think
God.
it must have been, yeah.
That's literally almost a year ago. Because it was, I
Wow.
moved December 1st, remember? And
Of
it's November
of 20, oh God, what year are we in
23.
now? 2023.
So if you couldn't tell, obviously, like Nicole and I are friends from before. Oh my God, we met Halloween in 2016. So it's our friend anniversary.
It is our friend anniversary.
But how many years? That's 8 years.
8 years. I can't believe it.
So me and my friend met Nicole and Lydia at that party, and the four of us just instantly clicked and like we hung out. Let's talk politics. I'm kidding.
I voted for Kamala. Is that how you say it? Kamala.
Yeah, yeah.
Well, I still have to vote, but I will be voting for her.
You haven't voted yet?
I haven't
No, I'm
either.
the worst.
Nice.
Well, tomorrow is like I'm off and I'm just gonna like
Okay,
really
good.
do my research on all of the different because there's so many like
There's a
other people
lot.
there
Different
that you just never
people.
heard
Yeah,
of.
yeah,
Yeah.
definitely. I'm gonna be watching like from tomorrow and like until Tuesday. I'm gonna be watching CNN like all day because I
Yeah,
just
but we're
need.
not gonna have an answer on
I know,
Tuesday. But anyway,
but it's
politics,
just
no
interesting.
politics.
Yeah. Anyway, but I think because and I said that because it's the election, so I'm just like, yeah.
Yes.
Okay, so obviously I've known you for a long time. I've even helped you with like some audition tapes and whatnot. And I know that you've done multiple law jobs from the time that I met you. I think three, four different jobs in law, maybe like a lot.
Three.
Three, yeah. And like other jobs and multiple acting jobs. So I mean, I know it all, but our listeners do not. So let's go back to the beginning and tell us just a little bit about like, I mean, where you're from and why you wanted to, first of all, like get into law, because that was your first career goal, and then what brought you from law into acting.
Oh boy, starting from the beginning. Okay, so I actually went into law because I didn't know what else to do. And I felt like I needed to have a like professional degree. So I was graduating college and all of a sudden I'm almost a senior and you kind of have to decide what you're doing. And I had no idea. I didn't want to, a lot of people from Harvard were going into sort of the like consulting, iBanking, finance route, and that didn't interest me at all. And so I was like, okay, well, I'll go to law school. So I, took the LSATs and I went to school. And I did my first year at Cornell. And I just really wasn't happy there. I mean, I met some great people, but it was very isolating in Ithaca, and I law school was really tough. That first year is brutal. Anyone who has an attorney or gone to that first year of law school 1L knows it's a tough year. And so after that, then I decided to move back to LA My parents still lived in Redlands at the time. I'm originally from Redlands, California, which is about an hour and a half east of LA. I always tell people it's on the way to Coachella, and they're like, "Oh, I know where that is."
Yeah.
And yeah, that's when I kind of moved back to LA and sort of began the like actress legal yo-yo that I did for many years until I finally decided that I can do both. And that's where I am now.
That's
Yeah.
so awesome. Oh my God. So you went to Cornell. So question, do you recommend going to law school?
It's funny because if you'd asked me that 10 years ago or however many years ago when I was very anti-law, I would say, no, don't go to law school. Um, but now I'm glad I did. So it's funny how things change. Now that I've finally found an area of law that I enjoy and that feels like the right fit, looking back, I'm like, yeah, I'm glad I went. But do I recommend it for people? I think you have to think really carefully about what you want out of a career. I think law is suited to some people really well. I had some friends who loved it and it was right for them. Um, but it's a very particular personality type, I think, of people that really truly enjoy being an attorney. And there are many different types of avenues in law, right? If
Right.
you are a very sort of adversarial person, you can be a litigator. I did litigation for a bit and did not enjoy that adversarial element as much. You can be on the more transactional side. So, yes and no. I would say think really carefully about why you want to be an attorney before you
Yeah.
go.
And also for people listening and hearing like Harvard and Cornell and all of this stuff. So what they don't know is that, I mean, tell us like kind of the backstory of like why Harvard, why Cornell, why USC, because people like most people know that these are Ivy League schools. Those are, and for those who don't know, they're some of the top schools in all of the US and they're not easy to get into. And there's obviously a reason why, like, you're highly scholared because of your parents.
Oh, thank
You are,
you.
though.
Well, yeah, I just like always did really well in school and I really liked school as a kid. Like I was that kid who you guys remember those like school supply lists that we would get?
Yeah.
Like I was so excited for my school supply list and I would go to Staples and just like get all my school supplies and was so excited for school to start. And I just always really liked learning and school and class. So I'm fortunate that school came pretty easy and I just enjoyed it and I was a good student. And my parents obviously wanted me to do well in school. School was important, but they weren't tiger parents. So school was important, and I also did a lot of athletics growing up. I mainly focused on tennis, so that was a big thing. And then I played piano, so I did tennis, I did piano, both of them competitively. Like I would go to the little piano competitions, and I would play tennis competitively too. And it was fun. It was a good time. And so, yeah, when I was applying to schools in high school, I had just done really well in school and also had these extracurricular activities and applied to a bunch of schools. And it's funny because, and not to say that I just happened to get into Harvard and went in. There's a lot of people who their whole dream is to go to an Ivy, and that would have,
Right.
for us, it was like, that would be nice, but it was just get into a good school. So I remember I lived in California. I applied to, all the UCs. And then I applied to the Ivies too. And I'd actually applied to Yale early action and I had gotten in, um, but then decided to apply to the others just to see what
Hmm.
happened. And then I got into Harvard and I was like, oh, I can't turn that down. Like, who
I
says
just got
no
the
to
chill.
Harvard?
Oh my
Right?
God. I
Yeah,
love
that's
it.
So,
insane.
so yeah, that's how that ended up happening. And yeah, and then it was good. And then I got to the end of college and still didn't really know what I wanted to do because I sort of never really knew what I wanted career wise. I mean, as a kid, I always loved acting. I did, community theater and I remember at one point I heard one of those like corny John Robert Powers ads. I don't know if you guys have heard of them, but they're kind of this, I don't know if they still exist. They're like, be an actress on the radio. And so I heard that on the radio once with my parents, and I was like, I don't know, probably 12 or something. I was like, oh my gosh, mom, I want to go. And so they came into LA, and they did the whole thing where you audition and they're like, oh yeah, she has potential, but then you have to sign up for this program that you have to pay all this money for. Unfortunately, my parents were wise enough to say, nah, that sounds not quite right. But I, as a kid, was like devastated. I was like, yeah, you don't want me to be an actress. So that was sort of like a little bit of a foray into that. But for them, it was always like, you can be an actress, but like get an education first. And education was really important to them. So yeah, then I went to college and I did theater in school, but I kind of had this idea in my mind that, oh, I can't act. That's not a real job. I have to go get a profession. So I never really considered it as a career until um, I wasn't happy in law at the time. So
Yeah.
back to answering your question, then I was applying to law school. I got into Cornell and was like, oh, that's a great school. I'll go there. And the first year, and what I want to say is because this podcast is going, I mean, everyone at Cornell was wonderful. Like the professors were wonderful. The you know the administrators were all great. It just I wasn't passionate about law, so it was a hard time for me. I think going into 1L year, if law isn't your passion, it's going to be tough. And
Yeah.
add to that Ithaca, which is a beautiful place, but can be very isolating. And I didn't really have any friends or family near there other than the people I met in law school who were lovely. Um, it was tough. So then I kind of was like, why am I here? I'm just doing this because I think I'm supposed to be doing this. I'm not happy. And credit to the people at Cornell who were wonderful, the administrators, because I was ready to drop out by the end of my first year. I was like, I'm miserable. I can't do this. I want to drop out. And I remember the lady in, I think, the guidance counseling office was like, no, 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 don't drop out. Just take a year off. It's fine. So she said, take a year off, come back or don't at the end. So that was a saving grace for me. And in that year, I moved to LA, uh, or back home to Redlands, trying to figure stuff out, and decided to go back and finish school, but didn't want to go back to Cornell. So I transferred to USC Law and finished out law school there.
Which is also a very good school.
Yes, also a
Yeah.
very good school.
Okay, so you mentioned that you're grateful now that you did go through it. Obviously, tough times, but what is it that you like about law and about being an attorney, and what area do you specialize in now?
Yes, great question. So I kind of jumped all over the place in the legal profession because I didn't know what I wanted to do. So my first, well, I finished law school and I was like, I don't want to practice law. I just did this so that I finished it, but F this. Can I swear on here or no?
Yeah, yeah,
Oh, you
yeah.
can.
Swear
Okay.
everyone.
I was like, fuck this. I want to be an actress. So I graduated law school and then was like, okay, well, I've already done all this work. I'm just going to take the bar and pass it while I remember everything. So I took the bar, and at that point in time, I was like, I'm never gonna like be
Teach
an
it.
attorney. I'm not
Was
gonna
it
do this.
hard? How hard was that?
Oh, it was hard. Like I took a prep course in the summer, like most people do. It was like a Barbary prep course. And then I remember when I took the bar, it was 3 days. I think they've changed it now. It's like 2 days. But it's funny because like going into it, everyone tells you, oh, it's so hard. Like you come out of that, like you just feel like you failed. And I remember the first day, it was really easy. And I was like, what is everyone talking about? Like, this isn't that bad. The
You're like,
second day murdered me.
Oh my
I just
God.
remember it was like the multiple choice, and I felt like I was guessing for like half the questions. I was like, yeah, I failed that. Like, thank God there's a third day. And the third day was like, so I remember there was one essay question that I just stared at for like 20 minutes because I had no idea. And they tell you
mm,
in bar prep, just like make something up. They want to see your logic. So that's what I did. And then I wasn't sure if I had passed, and then I did. So thank God I didn't have to take it again.
The first time?
I did the first
Fuck
time.
yeah. Oh
Woo!
my God.
And also, the California bar is supposed to be the toughest bar in the country.
Yeah.
So,
California and New York, I think, are
yeah,
some of the hardest bars. So yeah.
yeah.
Hell yeah, girl.
Thank goodness, because if I
Mhm.
hadn't passed the first time, I don't know if I would have taken it again. So
Yeah.
that was fate, smiling
Yeah.
upon me. But then yeah, so I passed the bar and was like, okay, I'm never gonna practice law. And so then I sort of started my journey into acting. And that was kind of the beginning of getting headshots and doing background work, which was so much fun because I had never been on a set before. I don't have any, family or connections in the industry. So that was very exciting for me the first time I did a background job. And I think it was like 2.5 Men. And I was on set and, Ashton Kutcher was there and I was like, oh my God, I'm on a set. It was very exciting. And so I was pursuing acting for a bit. And then I was struggling with the sort of like, how do you make a living as an actor doing, restaurant jobs? It's not easy. So I was like, okay, well, I have this law degree. I might as well try to use it. So that's when I started working first for this woman who was like an employment attorney. I worked with her briefly. And I didn't really enjoy employment law, so I left that. And to kind of summarize, because it's complicated, there was a lot of times where I like worked in law and then left and like worked in acting and hospitality, and then I would go back to law. So I worked at a personal injury firm, and then I left that and went back to serving. And then COVID hit, and I got laid off from my restaurant job. And because, all the restaurants closed, everyone who was like
Right.
working in a restaurant job got laid off. And COVID, was a whole thing. We don't need to get into that. But then kind of,
What's COVID? I'm kidding.
yeah, what was
What is
that?
it? It's fake, right? It's fake news.
Yeah, COVID's fake news.
Yeah.
And then I was trying to decide, okay, do I want to go back into the restaurant industry, or, you know, I there were things I liked about it, but then things I didn't. So I was like, okay, well, let's consider going back into law. And I have to credit my parents for this because I was like, I'm never going back to law again. And they had recently met with their estate planning attorney to update their, estate plan. And we're like, we were talking with our attorney because my mom loves to talk to everyone and she's so sweet. And she said,
Yes.
my daughter's an attorney, but she doesn't like law. Like, what do you think of estate planning? And he was like, actually, it's great. Like, it's really not that stressful and it's, good work. So she should consider it. So it was around like Christmas of that year. I think it was like the end of 2020. And my parents were like, look, we're not going to force you to go into law, but maybe consider estate planning. Like, our attorney said it could be a great field, that he loves it and that there's a good quality of life, work-life balance, and it could maybe work for you to pursue acting while doing it. So I was like, okay, I'll consider it. And that's how I ended up getting into the trust and estate world in law, which is where I am now. And I worked in litigation for a couple years in trust and estates. And it was a great experience in that I really learned a lot. And I felt like I don't want a real attorney, quote unquote, because, I
Mhm.
was in court and I was writing motions and arguing motions and going to mediations and taking and attending depositions. So it was great. I learned a lot. But ultimately, litigation is just really, stressful. And it's tough hours. And so I was, all my time and focus was on that, and I didn't really have much time to focus on acting. I was, auditioning and stuff at the time, but it was too much. I was burnt out. I was, working full time and then, coming home and taping auditions at night and then starting over. And So it was a lot. And then I ended up leaving that to do what I am doing now, which is estate planning. And it's great. It's reasonable hours, 9 to 5. I don't have to argue with people all the time. I
Right.
don't have to fight
Girl, we
with
need
like
to
opposing
Ah,
talk.
yeah.
counsel. Sorry,
Yep.
what?
No, I said we need to talk. I've been looking into doing my will and my trust.
Oh yeah, you
Uh,
absolutely
we
should.
literally
I
just talked
I
to my
told you
friend.
you should talk to her. I've already
It
told
was
you
like
that. Of
one ear out the other. I didn't hear it
course.
until now.
Oh, thank
Yeah,
you for
definitely.
that.
I'm
Because you know
Yes.
sorry.
you're
I love
listening
you.
to what I'm saying.
Everyone should have an estate plan and they should call Dresden and
You-
Associates. That's my law firm.
Yes, girl.
Um, but yeah, so that's how I ended up in estate planning, which is what I do now, and I enjoy it. It's not stressful. And I feel, like I'm helping people have peace of mind in terms of, what's going to happen when they're gone. And we also do like estate and probate administration. So we help people once family members have passed, and that's also a very scary, stressful time. And excuse me,
Yeah.
people are overwhelmed and they don't know what to do, and you've just lost a loved one, and then you have to deal with all these logistics. So I find it meaningful and not stressful, and I
Yeah.
still have time to act. So that's great.
Yay. I mean, I remember that period of your life. I
Oh
mean,
yeah.
I've been there through all of those things. I remember
Hmm.
because I was like it's a lot. And I mean, I've been juggling a lot of things in LA too, but I mean, that is just insane because well, I was telling Heather that like I know that it's been easier for you to get a law work or a law job than it has been to get like acting jobs because obviously you're in LA, thousands, if not hundreds of thousands of people are trying to be in the industry, right?
Oh
And
yeah.
so I can't remember if you said yeah, you said that you wanted to be an actor mainly from a radio advertisement that came on when you were a kid.
Well, I
Well,
had
like
wanted to be an actress beforehand, like
yeah.
as a kid, but then that radio ad came on, and I was like, it's
You're
my
like,
chance.
yeah, you're like, it spoke to me, mom. I need to do
Exactly.
it. So then when did you start taking acting classes?
So when I came back to LA, so I had done like community theater growing up, and I did like theater in high school, and I did it in college, but all just for fun. Like I hadn't taken any official like acting classes until I moved to LA and decided, okay, I'm gonna pursue acting. And that's when I started taking acting classes out here.
What year was that? Just so we know, like
Yes, that was I moved back to
you guys see
LA.
that? Sorry,
Oh no. Did
I
it
dropped my
fall?
whole mic and I was just like, I thought it was like super loud. Okay, never mind.
You are good. So
Um,
I moved to LA in 2013, and I started taking classes then. I was still in law school at the time. I graduated from USC in 2015, but that's when I sort of started taking classes. So yeah, 2013.
Okay, yeah. So explain to people that don't really know how it works. Like, do you need to take acting classes in order to get submitted for auditions or like is that kind of the first stepping stone from like wanting to become an actor until like actually getting booked and like becoming a working actor?
No, you do not have to take classes
Mm.
to book a job, right? Really, the only thing you have to do is get headshots. And nowadays, a reel. I mean, a reel you've always had to have, but it's become much more of a calling card, I think, than in the past, where it was more headshot based. Um, but pretty much the only things you have to do are like get headshots and put together a reel and then submit to jobs and have an agent. You can get jobs without an agent, but they're not going to be a lot of the TV and film jobs or even certain commercial jobs because a lot of those casting offices use agents sort of as a gatekeeper to filter out because obviously there's so many people who want to act.
Mhm.
Um, So no, you don't have to take classes, but I
They
highly
help.
recommend it.
Yeah.
Yeah. When did you get an agent?
So that's also a whole journey, an actor's journey. I've had different agents over the years, some better than others. So my current agent I actually got during COVID, but I'd had other agents prior to that. And yeah, that's a whole thing too.
How much does that does it cost a pretty penny? Like, what is that? And
Not if they're legit. So that's another thing that you have to be very wary of. If you have an agent and they're like, oh, I'll be your agent, but you have to pay me to get you jobs. No, that's not okay. They take a percentage once you book a job. So in LA, it's about 10, SAG standard is 10%, but if you have a non-union agent, they might take like 15% off of non-union jobs. But a legitimate agent will not ask you to pay in advance. Like they will only get paid once you get a job. So their incentive is to get you work, to submit you so that once you get a job, then you'll pay them 10% of what you get paid for the job.
got
Yeah.
it. Okay.
So many
Yes, I
different.
do highly recommend acting classes because you got to work on your craft, right? And if you've already gone to school for acting, like if you've done a drama program, you may feel like you don't need them. But I think it's always important just to be, working and refreshing. So I enjoy taking classes because I feel like you can always learn and improve. It's like the Malcolm Gladwell, 10,000 hours. The more you do something, the better you get. So, yeah.
Yeah. So when you have had your jobs in law, how does your both like employers and also colleagues like view your acting career? And vice versa too, like your team and like your other colleagues. I know it's obviously different when you're an actor because you rarely work with the same people again. But how does it like, how do they feel about the other?
That's a great question. It varies. When I was at a larger firm, I didn't feel that they really respected it. It was kind of like, okay, whatever, that's something that you want to do. And that's part of why I ended up leaving, because after a period of time, the terms of the job changed that wouldn't allow me to pursue acting. And I remember speaking with them saying, hey, like, this is not necessarily what we agreed to. And they said, well, tough luck. You gotta have to be an attorney or an actor. And I was like, not going to work for me. So, yeah, so in that sense, it was more like that firm that I worked for didn't quite like, appreciate it. But the trust and estate world and the people that I worked for there have been very understanding. And I think part of that is also just working at a small firm. I am a big proponent of boutique law firm, not big law. Big law is fine, but it's very it's
Corporate.
just more corporate, you
Yeah.
know? And when you work at a small firm, which is what I've done these last, 4+ years, it's intimate. It's just kind of you and your boss and the paralegals, and you're appreciated as a person and they appreciate your work. And so they've been understanding. And as long as you get your work done, they're fine with it, or at least my bosses have been fine with it. And I think part of that is also just proving yourself as an employee. I think coming in, they might be a little nervous. And with the first law job I had, I've always been transparent. I've always been like, I'm an actress. This is important to me. But I will get my work done. And of course, they took a chance on me, right? Because they didn't know. But I just always, if I leave for an audition, I'll take it as my lunch. And if it takes longer than lunchtime, I'll just work longer that day. Honestly, COVID was a lifesaver because everything kind of prior to that was very in-person auditions, and then it all kind of transitioned to self-tape, which is great because then you can do that on your own time. So I could do that in the morning before work or like after work at home, and I could still work a more traditional 9 to 5 job. Auditions would come up, but then my boss would be understanding and I would go and come back, make up the time. So, um, yeah, I would say that I've had both experiences, some where they aren't understanding and then others where they are. But I think it's like anything, they are attorneys. So they try to convince you like, do you still want to keep doing this acting thing? Like,
So
come on,
Right.
don't you want to
logical.
like
Yeah. Yeah.
don't you want to really
Yeah.
pursue law?
Exactly. Oh my God. I love that you like stand by who you are and what you love. And you're just like, yes, I'm an attorney, but my like true passion is acting. And so I really love that. But I wanted to ask, what do you think people don't realize about like the reality of working as an attorney in LA?
Thank you for saying that. That's so sweet. What do people not realize? That's a good question. I think um oh, it's funny. I think a lot of people, when I say I'm an actress and attorney, they're like, oh, isn't that the same thing? Because they have this idea of like TV attorneys that are like in the courtroom all the time, making all these like last minute arguments, which is such great television, but obviously not realistic. Um, and I would say the reality of being an attorney is it's a lot of research and writing. You
Mm.
are in front of a computer most of the day, either doing legal research or writing, whether it's a brief or now I do more planning. So it's a lot of like contract work, looking and drafting and modifying estate plans. Um, Even then, though, you still have a lot of legal pleadings and petitions. So the day-to-day job of an attorney is very much reading and writing. So that's something that you have to enjoy. And even if you are a litigator and you do have those times where you get to take a deposition or be in court and argue a motion, you still have to do all the research and write that motion before you go to court. And um, another thing people maybe don't realize is the judge has already read all of your papers by the time you show up to court. So you're not making this new argument that they haven't heard. A lot of times they'll just say, okay, counsel, I've read your papers. Is there any other argument you want to make that's not in there? Um, so I think, yeah, that's probably the biggest reality that it's not as glamorous as it seems.
Right. That's so funny because I was literally telling Henrietta, like, I want to ask her this question because the first thing that comes to my mind is like, because I just watched Monsters and I was like, oh my God, is this what she's doing in
Like,
court?
I'll have to watch Monsters and then I can tell you. I don't know. I haven't seen it.
Nicole, it's so good.
I know everyone's been talking about it, and it keeps popping up on my Netflix, so I need to watch
Yeah.
it.
I mean,
I
there's
need to
like,
watch it.
I mean, it's heavy, but it's a lot, and also it's very, very like um like active like right now in pop culture. Like they're actually trying to bring it up again so they can get a retrial. Well, a third
Okay.
trial. But I mean, like, I guess I don't want to give too much away because I mean, but obviously, like it is a true story, but it's the acting and the writing, like just from that standpoint, is really good. It's made by the
Okay.
same people that made Dahmer,
Ah, okay, okay. I'll need to
so
watch.
it's really
Yeah.
good. You
I'm
need
not
to.
super into true crime because I find it very depressing.
I
Me
love
neither.
true
I only
crime.
watched it because of Henrietta. She's like, you need
Yeah.
to watch it. I'm like, all right, fine.
You
Yeah.
know
So
me,
all
Nicole.
of these,
I
like, I
love
haven't
true
seen
crime.
Dahmer, which I
Me
know I need to
neither.
see, but I'm just like,
Heather
that,
can't see it. I mean,
yeah.
Nicole,
So scary.
you would handle it, but Heather could never handle it. She can't even. She can barely handle like Stranger Things and Harry Potter. So I'm like, don't watch it.
Okay. Yeah. No, not for you, Heather.
No, not for her at all. But Nicole, it's Dahmer too. I think I told you when I after I watched it, the acting is sublime. You're
Okay.
like, what the fuck? Like, it's actually insane. Like, it
Yeah.
makes
No,
you
I
like,
need I need to
yeah,
watch it. It's
yeah,
on the list.
yeah. It's
But the
on the list.
problem is when I go to watch TV, I usually want to watch something like lighthearted
Nice.
or an
Yeah.
action movie to just turn my
Right,
brain off.
right.
Yeah.
And I'm not usually in the mood to watch these like intense,
Deep.
true
Yeah.
crime
You
things.
have to be
But
in the mood.
yeah, but I mean, obviously it's great television. I
Yeah.
would agree.
Right.
So, moving on. So, what do you feel is the biggest misconception people have about acting as a career? Hmm.
I think the biggest misconception is that you're gonna struggle to make it, but once you make it, like you're set, and then you don't have to worry anymore. And the longer that I've done acting, I've been doing it many years now, you realize that that's really a myth for the majority of actors. Like unless you become super A-list,
Mhm.
you still it's a very unstable profession. Like you can, and your idea of making it changes too. Like for me now, my idea of making it is like, okay, just booking like a series regular role on TV so that I have a stable job.
Yeah.
And then ideally a series that becomes successful enough that you can then get residual payments.
Yeah.
But the profession is so or acting is very just the next job, And when I would hear actors say, okay, I booked this job and then I was afraid I would never book a job again, that's the reality. Like you can book a successful series, right? Like let's say you book like a series regular role on a TV show and it lasts, I don't know, a couple seasons, and then there's no guarantee you'll ever book another job again.
Mhm.
So I think the idea of making it is very much an illusion. I think being an actor, being a professional actor, is constantly searching for work. And most of acting is working on your craft and auditioning.
Mhm.
Just constantly auditioning, whether it's commercials or TV and film, and being handling rejection. I think
Mhm.
everyone in the world should try to be an actor for a year just to like build resilience.
I was gonna
Seriously.
say that
And
sounds so stressful. Like
yeah,
Yeah.
surviving.
it's very like you're just constantly rejected. I mean, most of these auditions you don't ever hear back. And so learning to kind of change your mindset when you're going into it, like, I'm just going to do this audition and do my best and be the best version of me. And if it's right for the role, great. But I don't ever plan to hear back or to book the job. So, like, if you book a job, it's like, oh, what a lovely surprise.
Mhm.
Like, I wasn't expecting that.
Yeah.
Um,
What kind of roles
so
do you typically go for?
It's interesting. Well, commercially, I get sent out a lot for like the young mom role or just like young friend or spokesperson, doctor, lawyer. I don't know why I'm doing that.
That's so funny. Uh,
And then yeah,
yeah.
TV film, I get a lot of the sort of yeah, kind of similar, like young mom or like young gosh, I'm trying to think of the best way
Is it
to
just because it's like best based on your
like
look?
young woman role. Yeah, I'll
Yeah.
get a number of like just like young Latina roles too. Um That one I find tough because I feel like I don't fit either way. I feel like sometimes I don't look Latina enough for like Hollywood's idea of Latina, and sometimes I don't look, I don't know, Caucasian enough or whatever. So I sort of feel like I'm in this little limbo world of that too.
Mhm.
But
It's funny because it's funny, I just want to say something to that because the amount of times where you've been practicing for an audition role where you're like, I have to be like, it's a Latina role, so like I have to like find this thick accent from somewhere because you don't have a thick accent,
no.
obviously. And it's so funny because like sometimes you use a little bit from like your parents, but then you also like make up something and it's hilarious. Like I remember like loving that so much.
What's like
Yeah.
your best what's your best accent?
I think,
Your Russian one is pretty good.
oh God, no, it's terrible.
I mean, it's
My Russian
funny.
one is terrible.
Please,
It is
please give
really
us a
funny.
demonstration.
Oh no, I can't even do Russian. I'm not even gonna
Okay,
try.
so do your Latina accent.
Oh gosh, you're putting me on like look at me. I'm this actress that's nervous. Um Okay, I'm just going to have to keep talking a bit until I get into it. It'll take a minute, but I can do it. Yes. We can answer a couple questions and yeah.
Okay. Let's find where's the okay, okay, let
That
me go
was so
down
good.
that. See,
It
that
was
is pretty
okay.
good.
Like the more I talk, the better it gets, But
Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly.
yes. Oh,
Um,
actually, I think I do a good Southern accent, like that sort of
oh yeah.
traditional, like cat on a hot tin roof, or what's that other famous Southern play that I'm blanking on right now? I love doing like a Southern. Would you like some lemonade?
You also like Australian accents too.
Oh, I can't do Australian accents, but I love Australian
Mhm.
accents. That's, I think, the hardest one to do.
Nicole had her series set to Australian.
It still is. It's an
Is it?
Australian man. My future husband will be Australian.
There you go. Just putting it out there, okay? Oh, it's so I'm not sure if we have listeners in Australia, but if we do,
Yeah, call me.
we need a green card.
Nicole is single.
Oh,
Hilarious.
how
Oh
funny.
my God.
Oh my, well,
Okay.
because I well taking it back to like the seriousness, because I mean it is something to say that like I feel like you either say like, oh, you're an actor or like you're a working actor. Those are kind of two different things because unless you're like a working actor, like chances are like you have to have, an additional income and an additional job because it is very hard to live off of it, like you say. And also, LA keeps getting more expensive.
Oh, it's crazy.
Right.
So, okay. So how do you manage the stress between, well, now you don't do courtroom anymore, but like your work and also prepping for an audition. And I feel like I mean, I know a little bit of this because I love helping you. I'm not gonna lie. Like I've loved
Oh,
helping, prepping, and like when I'm like behind the camera, I'm reading the other lines. I'm like feeling like I'm part of it, you know? But how do you
yeah. We've had so much fun together. I booked a job that Henrietta read for me.
you did
Ah,
I forget which job it was. Do you remember?
chess mix? Oh, I
Oh, yeah, it
remember.
was the Hallmark job. It was the Hallmark and Checks job. And
See?
Henrietta was my
Hallmark.
reader. It was,
Hallmark.
yeah. She's my lucky charm.
that's so exciting. Wait, I want to know, like, does the pay, I know before you answer Henrietta's question,
Mhm.
but like, I want to know what does the money look like? And I know it varies, but can you like give us a little bit of what that looks like?
Yes, so it definitely depends on the job. I am currently SAG eligible, so I could join the union, but I haven't joined yet, which means it's kind of the perfect place to be, because you can do non-union and union work. And I'm just waiting until probably the next union job I book, then I'll become a must join and then I'll have to join the union. Um, but it depends. So commercials, I would say, pay the most for your typical like working actor. If you've booked a series regular role on a TV show, then you'll get paid well. And then if you get renewed for another season, you'll likely renegotiate your contract and that get paid more. But if you're thinking about like your typical working actor who's going to be booking maybe like day player roles or like commercial jobs, commercials generally pay more. And they're quote unquote easier to break into because they're a little more look and personality based, depending on the commercial. And in the past, they used to pay insanely well because most national commercials were union. And so if you booked a national commercial, you just got paid like up to like six figures sometimes. Unfortunately, that has changed a lot. So a lot of commercial work has now switched to non-union, and you just kind of get a buyout. And even that has gotten much worse. Kind of like when I was first starting, the non-union buyouts were pretty good. Um, you know, they
Give
could
me
be
some numbers. What does that look?
yeah,
Heather.
non-union
I need the
buyouts.
numbers.
Yeah, it's like so complex because it just depends too. But I would
Yeah.
say like your average good buyout is, a 1 year buyout or 2 year buyout. And in the past, those non-union buyouts would be maybe like 10 to 20,000. which is pretty good for, a commercial one to
Right.
2 days of work shooting. But sadly, a lot of those buyouts have gone way down. And now it might be like 1 to 5,000
Mm.
for a non-union job. Yeah, it's crazy.
That's for a year?
Depends. Sometimes
So,
they'll do like 6 months of usage, and sometimes they'll do a year to 2 years. Sometimes, and the problem with non-union work is it's not regulated, right? So they can kind of take advantage of actors who are new to the industry and don't know, and so like never do in perpetuity. That's what I'll say to anyone listening.
oh yeah.
Never do in perpetuity commercial work. That's just a no.
Or any, right? Or any type of work
Well, like TV
or
and film, that would be like
right.
in perpetuity, but there's no conflicts
Yeah.
because with commercials, conflicts come into play. Like if you're doing a Coke commercial, they're not going to want you to do a Pepsi commercial, right? So you'll be conflicted out for the amount of time that that Coke commercial is running. You can't do Pepsi or maybe another type of soda. And so that's why you wouldn't ever want to do something in perpetuity, because if you agree to do Coke in perpetuity, you could never do another soda commercial. And
Mm.
Mm.
that's not going to be good for you as an actor.
See, good thing that you're also an attorney because there are a lot of contract things and there are a lot of, I mean, I'm sure people think that, oh, a lot of actresses or actors, don't necessarily have like a lot of smarts, like when it comes to like the business side of the acting industry. Like people just assume, right? And so having
Yeah.
met
And
you,
when
that's
you're
how
a
it
young
is. Like,
actor coming from wherever you've come from,
right.
and you know nothing about, you're like, oh, I booked a job, it's great. And then it's this an in perpetuity buyout. It sucks. So that should just be illegal. That should be cracked down on, in my opinion, that there's no good regulation for that. But yeah, most non-union buyouts will be like a fair buyout, I would say, is like 1 to 2 years.
Mm.
Um, but if you book a union job, I booked a union commercial, and that was a great payday. So, yeah, it just
Was
depends.
it the Hallmark one? The Hallmark Chess Mix one?
No, that was a T-Mobile commercial I did.
Oh, I remember that. Yeah.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Oh my
So,
Okay.
God, dude. Look
So
at
now
you.
that you
I
have
think,
your
yeah.
answer, you're like, number,
Like,
give me a
I
number. I'm
mean,
like, Heather,
no,
you
I
can't
think that,
always just ask people what they make
why not?
because people find it uncomfortable.
Oh, sorry. If
I
you're
know
uncomfortable,
Nicole, so
sorry.
I'm like,
Oh, okay.
but also to kind of clarify in terms of so that people understand, like
yeah,
making
yeah,
it
yeah.
as an actor, like I would consider myself a working actor, but even among working actors, there's like categories. I still don't make enough money from the couple of jobs I book a year to only do acting. So I still need a side job. And that just tells you how difficult the industry is. I don't know completely the stats on this, but I think maybe 1% of actors are like full-time making a living off of acting. And everyone else is kind of, then there's a lot of people who aren't even booking jobs, but they're still actors.
Right.
They're
Yeah,
trying to get the job. And then there's people who are booking jobs like me, but who aren't booking enough that they can quit their day job. So
Right.
it's a crazy industry. It's very tough.
I
yeah,
think that's why I like want to know the numbers because for me, like let's say if I wanted to be an actress and I'm a single mom and like you're telling me that you're making money off these jobs, like I need to know if it's stable. So like
Mhm.
as a working actress that books a couple times a year, like I definitely need to have a side job for sure.
mhm.
Yes. Yeah. I
Especially
mean, even
in
if
that
you're
building you're living in.
Right.
You'd have to move.
Exactly,
and even
exactly.
if you're booking like day player roles on TV shows, that's still not going to be enough to live on the whole year, right? So really the only people who cannot, who can quit their day job are people who are consistently, either booking like multiple roles on TV shows, like a
Movies. Yeah.
big union commercial that pays off really well. But it also varies from year to year, right? You might be able to quit your day job one year and then need to pick it up again the next year.
Yeah.
Right. When people get into like these series, right? Are like would that be sufficient enough? I guess it depends on contract to contract, right? But
Yeah.
like are we looking at like a six-figure income for if I'm doing like an episode of Stranger Things, like the first season of like Stranger Things, it hasn't picked up yet. Like, do I still need to have a job on the side?
Definitely. Yeah.
I
Yeah.
was gonna
Because you
say,
don't know if it's going to be a successful show. And also if you'll book another job after that. Like if you're just starting out, like I don't know the numbers on it. I'm sure that we could do the research, but I'm sure the cast of Stranger Things, like largely unknowns, except for like Winona Ryder and some other people, they would have had just like standard SAG rates for that first season. And it would have been like decent pay, but not enough for like multiple years. Or it depends how frugal you are and
Mm,
like your expenses.
got it.
And then
Okay.
you
and
don't
then
know if it's going to become successful or picked up for another season. So you would definitely want to keep your side job for a bit.
And you also don't know, like, I mean, taking that as an example, Stranger Things, if it's a huge production, it could take up to like a year to film, and then you won't get paid until it actually comes out, and then see how well it does or if it doesn't do well. So you could potentially like be working and not have time to do an additional job, but then you're not going to get paid until you don't even know when. So
Well, you
that is
would get paid for the work,
good.
like, but 'cause
Oh,
unlike commercials where you get paid like per airing if it's a union commercial, or like per airtime, like for theatrical work, you're going to be paid pursuant to like the contract and like the episodes you film,
mhm.
but you don't know like if it's going to be renewed, right? Or
Uh,
if it's not renewed, then you don't have a job next year. So,
So interesting. I did not
yeah.
know any of this stuff.
Oh, well, I'm happy to teach you.
so going back to my first question,
Yes.
the
Remind me
preparation.
what it was.
Yeah, exactly. For prepping for the auditions.
Oh, yes, like
Yeah.
how to balance it with law, right?
Yeah, with your other job, yeah.
Now it's great. But before it was tough. Like I would get, and now they've changed the rules. So like with TV and film auditions, I think they have to give you like 72 hours notice. But in the
Mm,
past, like, and that's only recently with the strikes, like in the past, you could get an audition like the night before and they're like,
yeah.
tape, return the tape by tomorrow at noon or 5, and you're like, "Blah." All of a sudden you have to like rework your whole schedule. And so for me, it'd be like, I might be like about to go to bed and get an email notification that I have this audition due tomorrow. And I'm like, oh shit, well now I have to wake up early so that I could tape it before work. Or if you have to find a reader, like thankfully my parents are like the best. And they're usually my readers because I can just call and be like, hey, I need you to be my reader on this and get them on Zoom and they'll read for me. And like they're so cute. Like they've come a long way. In the past, they used to be terrible. And now like they know what they're doing. They're now professional
Train them
readers.
well.
Oh my God, it's so funny. I thought you were gonna say, I mean, I could also call Henriette and she'll be there, which,
Exactly, exactly.
yeah.
But I mean, it's tough. It's very like being an actor, a lot of times you have to have flexibility because an audition can come up and you have to like figure out how to get it done.
Mhm.
Um, so when I was working my litigation job, it was much more stressful because I might have like a whole thing scheduled for that day, and then this audition might come up, and I'd have to figure out how to get it done. Like either tape it in the morning before I go in, or try and, that job I worked a combination of hybrid. So I might like tape it at lunch, and then go back to work. Um, but it was definitely tough and exhausting sometimes. Like obviously it's a great position to be in to be getting multiple auditions, but there'll be weeks where you don't get anything and then weeks where you get like 5 in one week. And then you're just trying to stay afloat, like doing your job and then taping auditions and then going to bed and waking up and repeating. So it was tough. Like I burnt out. It was hard. Now it's a
And
lot
also
easier.
having a social life too,
Oh
obviously.
yeah.
Like
Add
trying
to
to
that,
be,
like
yeah.
trying to date and maintain friendships. It's exhausting. But yeah, now it's much easier because of the work that I'm doing. It's more reasonable hours and just makes it a lot less stressful.
Yeah, so well, to transition out of, acting in law, it's been really great to, pick your brain from both angles. Um, Where do you see yourself in 5 years?
Right now, yeah. Um, it's interesting because in the past, I would always be like, this is where I need to be, right? And you have this idea of like what success looks like and what you need to achieve. And then if you're not there, you feel like you're behind on life or stuff like that. And through a combination of time and therapy, like my mindset on that is shifting. And I'm trying not to have a sort of like, this is where I need to be in 5 years, especially as an actor or as a creative. You need to be more flexible with things like that. Um, so where do I see myself in 5 years? I could see myself where I am now. Like I'm finally, it took so long and I never thought I would come to this place, but I'm happy being an actress and an attorney. Ideally, yay.
Yay.
Ideally, I would love to be working more as an
Yeah.
actor. Um, and in the past, I used to just like only want to act full time and I couldn't wait to like not have to be an attorney anymore. But now that I'm doing legal work that I enjoy, I'm actually like, I actually kind of like being this kind of attorney. So
It's
I
all
could
it took. The right job.
honestly, yeah, it's
Yeah.
crazy. You know, I never would have thought that I would say that I actually like law, but here we are.
I
Oh,
wouldn't think you would say that either.
I know, I'm in shock.
that's so
Yay.
awesome. I
Yeah.
definitely see you in a series though, for sure.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Well, I mean, going off of that, because now we're going to talk about like the social life and the romance life. I mean, obviously, I think all of
Romance.
us romance. I think we all hope that we're in relationships in 5 years. At least I know that I do, and I know that you do as well. So, Heather and I were just talking about right before you came on that we both got back on Hinge, which
Mm.
you know. I'm like the fucking dating apps. So update
Oh,
us a
no.
little bit. Like how has your dating life been in LA? Like your experience of dating in LA, like from you came to LA.
Oh, it has been tough.
Preach.
What'd you preach?
Preach.
Seriously. I think I don't know how much of it is LA and how much of it is just our generation and dating in a big city. I think LA also attracts a certain type of personality as everyone comes here to make it big. And everyone's very self-focused, which in and of itself isn't a bad thing. It's not a bad thing to like be ambitious and to like want to improve yourself. But I think what I've noticed with a lot of men is that they, when they're kind of in that place, they don't feel like they can commit to a relationship or yeah, they're just like, I'm all about just like, pursuing my career and I can't date anyone seriously until I'm successful. And I view that differently. I'm like, finding the right person, you can like grow and pursue a career together. So I
When
found
what they really mean is that, well, I'm keeping my options open
oh
because
yeah,
there's always going to be the next best like shiny thing. That's really what they
absolutely.
mean because LA has millions of beautiful people. I mean,
Yeah.
obviously that's what people go to like be on screens, right? And I
Yeah.
feel like that is like one of the, at least like in my experience, that's how I felt.
Oh yeah. And I blame like dating apps, dating app culture for that sort of like sense that people are disposable, right? It's like, oh, I can just swipe and find someone else. And
Mhm.
so I think people are, yeah, it's very, yeah, I agree. It's kind of this idea. Yeah, people are disposable. You can just next thing. What's the next better option? It's kind of a thing with people in LA too. Like people say that people in LA are flaky. Obviously, not everyone is like that, but a lot of
Yeah.
people are like they won't commit to something because they're waiting for the better thing. Like,
Mhm.
oh, I won't commit to hanging out with you on Friday night because what if this better party comes up or what if this better option comes up?
I
So
hate people.
Yeah, it's all kind of the same thing. It's kind of this idea of like, I won't commit to a relationship or even like dinner on Friday night because something better could
Literally.
come.
But
Yeah.
what is it like an
Um,
LA thing? Like, I mean, obviously Henrietta over there, it's so different. Everyone's married, having kids at this point as millennials. Um,
yeah.
but I feel like it's such an LA thing. This is an LA thing, and I've only gone on one date, Nicole.
Only one
I've
date.
only gone on one date. Yeah,
Oh, girl, you gotta go on more dates.
I know. It's
But
supposed to
she
be my
also,
hoe era.
oh my
Like,
God. Then you can't be on the dating apps, so you have to just go out. But I also told her, because the dating apps have changed dramatically from when they first came out and until now. Because when we first started on the dating apps, people were not flaky. I mean, like people are always going to be flaky, but only the people who are also like in their off dating app time are also flaky. But because people actually were interested in trying it as a dating app and now people want it as a confidence boost. So
Oh
when
yeah.
Heather told me in the beginning that she was like messaging people and whatever and kind of like making tentative, plans and dates. And she was like, they ghosted me. They did this. I'm like, it's a numbers game. And Nicole and I talked about this so many times. It like I would say one and maybe 20 you will maybe meet in real
I
life.
literally have been like, Nicole, I'm just like, let's go for coffee tomorrow. When are you free? Let's go. Meet me here. Meet me there. Silence.
Yeah,
I'm just like, what?
I
What
know.
is going on?
I hear you. I don't get it either. I think, yeah, a lot of people are just, I guess, on there as an ego boost to get matches, but you are not
Mhm.
alone. I've experienced the same thing. It's just like crickets. And you're like, I'm
Yeah,
actually here to date. Like,
I'm about to
so
just
literally.
go to the grocery store and just start
yeah.
asking people, do you want to go for coffee? I should just do
Yeah.
that.
You should just do that. Just do it. I feel like you would have a way better
Yeah.
chance of meeting someone or actually going somewhere with them if you just go and do it like I'm not like you. I can't I could, but like I don't want to approach people in that way. I want to be pursued and approached. And I know you have no issue like being the one that approaches and pursues like guys.
Yeah.
So what's your dating situation like now?
Well, I think you kind of have to be on the apps these days, right?
Mm.
Because otherwise, how do you meet people? It's tough. I think it's like I work, I'm not going to meet anyone in my office. It's a small office, it's not like a big firm. And then, with acting, yeah, maybe you'll meet people in acting class or on a job, but that hasn't been the case for me. And then outside of that, it's like, okay, well, how else do you meet people? Like out and about, that hasn't panned out.
We've tried for years.
That hasn't panned out. So
Man.
I feel like most of the dates I've been on have been on dating apps. I
Which one?
feel so I'm on Bumble, I'm on Hinge, and I'm on Raya. I
Mm.
feel like I've had the best success on Hinge.
Did Henrietta tell you what we did? Did you tell her about the Bumble
Yeah,
event?
the Bumble event, remember in the
Oh, I think you did
basement?
tell me.
There was like a bunch of like desperate people.
Oh
I was like,
no.
what the fuck did you take me here?
I
Oh
didn't know
gosh.
what to expect. It was my first Bumble event because I was like, I mean, might as well try it. It'll be in person. You never know. Instant regrets.
You know what they should do? They should have like an event with your matches. Because you already know that there's maybe something there. And so maybe they could have like in-person match event and like you go and multiple people that you matched with might be there. So then you get a chance to like meet them in person.
If you had to choose acting or law, like now in the place that you're at in life, you had to choose. You could only do one thing. What would it be?
There's like multiple variables there. Can I make a living off of either one or do I have
Yes.
to just
Yeah.
okay. Like I can
Yeah.
make a living off of either one.
Yeah.
Okay. Then I would probably choose acting.
I figured, but I just wanted to ask anyways.
So, Nicole, so since our podcast is all about embracing life in your 30s and giving an unfiltered look at what it means to be a millennial, we'd love to dive a little deeper into your experiences as part of this generation. So, if you could go back in time, what advice would you give to your 30-year-old self?
do you. Don't do what you think you have to do. I feel like I spent so much of my 20s doing what I thought I should be doing what I thought was like the right thing to do. Like, this is how I should be living my life. This is what it means to be successful or what this. And it wasn't honoring me or like what I wanted. It's what I thought I had to be. So if I could go back knowing what I know now, I would say like just honor yourself. Do what you feel is right for you. Don't do things just because you think that's what you have to do or what success means.
What is one thing that surprised you about being an adult that you didn't expect?
That there are no rules.
Mm-hmm.
That surprised me. I think realizing that like when I was younger, I thought adults kind of like had it all figured out and like just you get to this point and everything is clear. And then you become an adult and you realize it's all just a crapshoot.
Yeah. Throwing like blindly and trying to like see if you hit something.
Yeah, and we're all
Yeah.
just like living and trying to be happy and find meaning in our lives. And there are no rules about how you should live your life. Everyone has a different idea of what you should do, but that's it's like empowering but also scary because you realize, oh, there is no rule. Like
Mhm.
I can do whatever, but then it's also like, oh gosh, what do I do?
Okay, so before we wrap it up, tell us and our listeners what you're working on right now, if you are working on something special, and where can people find you?
I'm working on auditions as usual. No particular projects that I've booked as of yet. But so yeah, just auditioning. And if you're looking into an estate plan, call Dresden and Associates. And where can people find me? I would say on Instagram is the best way. I'm at the Nicole Torres.
Nicole, thank you so much for joining us today and sharing your journey. I think you've inspired a lot of people to follow their passions, whether it's in the courtroom, on stage, or both.
Absolutely. You've shown us what it means to truly pursue what you love, even if that means juggling two completely different worlds. And it's not every day you meet someone balancing acting and law and doing it so gracefully.
Thanks, guys. I appreciate the support, and this was so fun. I loved my first podcast experience.
We love it too. You did such a good
Great.
job. You're a natural in front of the camera.
Oh,
Duh.
thanks. It's almost like I've practiced.
It's almost as if it's your job.
Oh, shocker.
I love it. Thank you so much, Nicole. It was so nice
Yeah,
to see
thank
you. We
you.
definitely need to catch up soon.
Yeah, definitely. Give me a call.
And to our listeners, thank you for tuning in. We hope you enjoyed this episode as much as we did. And don't forget to follow us on social media to keep up with Nicole and also, obviously, all things 30s Unfiltered.
And if you loved today's episode, leave us a review and let us know. We've got so much more in store for you this season, and we can't wait to share it with you.
Until next time, keep chasing those dreams, whether it's in a courtroom, on stage, or anywhere in between.
Bye.
Bye. This was wonderful. Bye, guys.
Bye. Hey, thanks for listening. We hope you got some takeaways from today's episode.
You can also follow us on Instagram and YouTube at 30s Unfiltered or email us at 30sunfiltered@gmail.com.
Please leave us a like, comment, and subscribe to our channels. See you next time.